If you've ever felt completely exhausted, stressed out, or just overwhelmed by the pressure to fit in, well, you're absolutely in the right place. We're diving into Dr. Kumud Singhal's fantastic book, Stay Cool, Stay Happy, to figure out how to debug our mental operating system. And honestly, while this is framed for teenagers, this stuff applies to literally anyone experiencing those exhausting emotional glitches. Think about this highly relatable scenario for a second. Why is it that putting off a super simple, maybe 20-minute homework task completely ruins your whole weekend? You're supposedly having fun playing video games or scrolling, right? But instead, there's this heavy, annoying cloud just hanging over you, totally draining the joy out of your downtime. You haven't actually done any hard work, yet you feel completely exhausted. Crazy, right? Well, why exactly does that happen? The short answer? Clutter. But actually, scratch that. Not the kind of physical clutter you're probably picturing. You see, to your brain, a messy bedroom with clothes thrown absolutely everywhere is virtually identical to internal clutter. We're talking about the heavy, invisible stuff here. Feelings of guilt, jealousy, or that endless trap of social comparison. A messy room and a messy mind act the exact same way. They both violently drain your precious daily energy, leaving you way too tired to actually enjoy your life. Okay, so here's our game plan for today's explainer. We're outlining a specific user manual for the self. First, we'll clear that internal clutter by diagnosing 5 specific emotional glitches. Then, we'll deploy 3 tools to debug your daily experience, using the pause button, raising the golden shield, and finally finding what we call the ancient quiet. All right, part 1, the 5 emotional glitches. Let's think of the teenage mind as a high-performance operating system. In this system, disruptive emotions aren't just bad moods. They're critical software errors that we desperately need to patch. Let's diagnose the top 5 glitches that cause our systems to crash. The first glitch is anger. And man, this is a complete system crash. It's a sudden power surge that just overloads your processor. Think of that burning urge to scream when a sibling accidentally deletes a digital project you spent hours on. It forces an ungraceful shutdown. And here's the thing. Just like a father who told his son to hammer a nail into a fence every time you lost his temper, even if you apologize and pull that nail out later, the hole is still there. Words spoken during a system crash leave permanent scars. Glitch number 2 is jealousy. This one operates purely as background malware. You know, it's constantly running behind the scenes, draining your battery and slowing down your processing speed. It's that bitter, stinging sensation you feel when your best friend wins the top prize or gets the lead role instead of you. You love them, sure, but this background app is wasting your battery life monitoring their performance instead of focusing on your own. It just drains your energy on things you literally cannot control. Next up, we have guilt. Think of guilt as an infinite loop that completely freezes up your system memory. It's a piece of stuck code that keeps rerunning the exact same past event over and over again. A perfect example is that sick feeling in your stomach after blaming a younger sibling for breaking something just to save yourself. Sure, you escaped the punishment, but that infinite loop of guilt totally locks up your system, making it impossible to process the present moment effectively. The fourth glitch is pride and arrogance. This acts like hard-coded firmware, because it assumes it's already completely perfect, like, say, after getting a top score on a big test. It becomes incredibly rigid. It starts speaking down to classmates and straight up rejects vital patches, updates, and advice. But here's the big problem with that. Like a rigid tree in a massive storm, because it absolutely refuses to bend, it inevitably breaks and glitches the second the environment changes. Finally, we have fear. This glitch generates some seriously exhausting ghost notifications. It's like freezing up and physically shaking before a penalty kick because you're imagining an entire stadium of people pointing and laughing at you. Anxiety generates constant high-priority alert pop-ups for threats that don't actually exist in the physical environment. It forces your system into a totally unnecessary and, quite frankly, exhausting high alert mode. Which brings us to part 2, using the pause button. If these 5 emotions are our major software glitches, how do we actually install the patch? How do we stop crashing into the walls of our own lives? Well, that brings us to our first major tool. Imagine you're carrying a huge bowl of popcorn, you trip, and spill it absolutely everywhere. Your mind instantly wants to export the blame, right? To snap at someone just standing nearby. But right in that moment, you actually have the power to utilize a 3-second delay. We call this entering the gap. It's that tiny, crucial space between feeling the heat of anger and actually making a choice. Instead of blindly hitting the quick start button on your anger, you're going to follow these 3 steps. Step 1 is the trigger. That's the data input, like the spilled popcorn. Step 2 is the gap, the 3-second pause button. In those 3 seconds, you aren't fuming, you're sitting in the gap observing the facts like a scientist. And finally, step 3 is the deliberate choice. Because you actually took a moment to pause, you can act logically instead of just reacting impulsively based on your temper. You see, in this operating system, you always face a split-second choice. You can take path 1 and allow that ego monster to run an automatic, jagged reaction, letting it push your buttons like annoying background noise. Or you can take path 2. You can use your intellect, hit that pause button, and execute a thoughtful, deliberate response. You literally move from being a simple reaction machine to becoming the master driver of your own mind. It's a real game changer. Moving on to part 3, raising the golden shield. But what happens when the stress isn't an accident, like a popcorn spill, but a direct attack? Like a friend mocking your failed tennis serve in a group chat, or someone leaving a nasty comment online. How do we debug that? That requires our second tool. The source material gives us this incredible framework. Imagine you hold an invisible golden shield of inner peace. When a bully insults you, their words are like arrows. If you stay in that gap we just talked about, if you refuse to hand over your remote control and don't react blindly, the bully's arrow hits the shield and just clatters harmlessly to the floor. It literally cannot touch you. But the second you get angry, you lower your own shield. And that is exactly when the arrow hits your heart. Ultimately, you are the one who decides if their words get through. To keep that shield up, you have to become what's called the active witness. When someone is mean, your body sends physical, hot signals, a racing heartbeat, a tight chest. By simply naming those signals out loud or in your head, you remain the active witness standing calmly on a train platform. You can see the anger express rushing in, but you quickly realize, wait, I don't have to jump on it. You can just watch the train pass right on by without being forced into the passenger seat. And that brings us to part 4. Finding the ancient quiet. This leads us to our final and honestly most profound tool. The ultimate software upgrade is learning to detach your inherent worth from all the chaotic, noisy events happening outside of you. Think of your true core self as the vast, permanent blue sky. All that modern noise, social media likes, anxiety, arguments, a bad grade, those are merely passing clouds. A huge, dark, angry cloud might pass through your mind, but does it stain the sky? No, of course not. If you identify with the clouds, you're going to get blown around by every single storm. But if you identify with the sky, that steady background awareness, you remain completely untouched. This whole concept is governed by the universal rules engine, or the law of action and reaction. Here's the deal. You have total control over the actions you take, your effort, but you have zero control over the results the universe calculates. A bus drives away without you, a friend offers a ride, you trip and fall. The universe calculates results based on countless variables you can't even see. Once you truly accept this, you shift all that heavy pressure away from the scoreboard. You stop trying to use trophies or grades to buy your worth, and you just simply start enjoying playing the game. Ultimately, this explainer maps out a really beautiful journey. You're moving from a distracted, noisy sheep meadow, where you're just living for likes and social approval, to a perfectly still lake. And when the water of your mind is finally calm, you can look into it and realize the ultimate truth. You are not a dependent sheep. You are a golden lion. You are already completely whole. You are a perfect 10, and you lack absolutely nothing. The destination and the seeker are the exact same thing. The next time your system feels completely overloaded, then what are you going to do? Will you let the glitch dictate your entire day? Or will you use the pause button, step back into the gap, and reclaim the sky?